Okay, welcome back everybody. In the first part of this lecture, we explored the concept of the self, how it's constructed, how it shifts depending on our social context, and how our perceptions and prejudice shaped our worldview, our Lebenswelt. Okay? Right now, we're going to move a little bit and turn the lens of what we're looking at to the relationship between the self and technology. The main question that we've got to explore is, what does technology do to the self? And the flip side of that argument is also important, or the question. What does the self do to technology? Okay, so as we talked about in our last lecture, technology is cultural. It's not just a tool. So let's start with this idea. Technology isn't always neutral. It's not a tool. It's not just a tool that you can use. It's a system embedded in culture, created by humans, used by humans, and reflective of human desires, limitations, and values. When we say something is technological, we usually imagine hardware, things like smartphones, computers, robotics. But technology is also ideological. It encodes assumptions about how life should be, how we should communicate, how we learn, and how we understand ourselves. Just consider something as simple as smartphones. It gives us immense power. It can record, share, calculate, navigate, but it also nudges us into constant documentation, into performance, into dependence, into curated selves. Okay, so those are all big changes with that just that one technology. On Wednesday, we talked about something about called media ecology. And I want to talk about that a little bit more in terms of the ecology of meaning. So media ecology, again, as just a reminder, is a framework of studies that study media and technology as an environment and how we live within our physical ecosystems, how we live in our symbolic ecosystems too. Marshall McLuhan, you may have remember him from Comms 101, said that the medium is the message. What he meant is this. It's not just the content that matters, but the form that the content takes. Reading a book, watching a TV show, or going on social media, something like TikTok, or hearing a podcast, each produce a very different experience and types of selves that you are utilizing when you engage in those media. If you grow up surrounded by screens, likes, notifications, algorithms, you're shaped by them. Your life world and your cognitive schema evolve around them. So technology just doesn't live in your hand, it lives in your habits, in what you do. It's a really interesting concept. There's a theorist called Walter Ong. He was a Jesuit priest. But in the 80s, with the emergence of television, the 70s and 80s, he thought that maybe things were going back to where they were before the printing press, with a lot of orality, a lot of storytelling, a lot of verbal types of communication. He called this concept secondary orality, or a return to oral communication through digital means. In ancient cultures, knowledge was passed orally. It was a collective, contextual, it was performative. Then we moved on into the age of print. It was individual. Print is individual, linear, and fixed. Now, through podcast, video, content, voice messaging, television, we are now experiencing a second wave of oral culture. But this version of oral culture is different than it was before the printing press. It's oral, yeah, but it's also technologically altered. The word is technologicalized. I'm not sure I'm even saying that right, pronouncing right, but you get the picture. Our world through technology is saved, it's edited, it's filtered, it's looped. It changes how we speak, how we listen, and even how we think. So who are we in this secondary orality? Are we performers? Or are we authentic? Or are we constructing ourselves the way we want others to see? Or is there something else going on? We talked again on Wednesday, I think I introduced this term, technological determinism. And I want to talk about technological determinism, or the idea that the technologies that we use influence how we see the world around us, and compare that to human agency. Okay? So are we shaped by technology, or do we shape it? There's a tension between technological determinism and human agency. Okay, again, technological determinism argues that technology drives social change, often outside our control. Social media algorithms, for example, prioritize content that we didn't ask for. Our behavior changes in response, and we scroll more, post differently, engage differently. There's a researcher out of MIT, his name is Ronald Epstein, and he looks at the influence of digital technologies on politics. He's got 12,000 people that he's monitoring their computers, looking at their search histories, and then what results Google and social media give them through their search history, what they're looking for. And then he can track the political valence, the positivity or negativity for Republican or for Democratic messages, and what the algorithms and what Google, Facebook, TikTok, and I think he's got Instagram up now. And what he does is he looks at the polling, what people believe, and then what they receive, and the difference between those two things. Okay, just another example of how that happens. Okay, so again, our behavior through the secondary orality changes in response to digital media, the media that we consume. So we scroll more, we post differently, and we engage differently. But we also have agency. So we decide, we have the ability to decide how we use these different platforms. We shape norms around them, we build countercultures. The self resists as much as it adapts. So rather than asking, does technology control us, we might ask, how do we negotiate our realities with technology? Okay? All right, so now let's talk a little bit about curation. In digital spaces, we don't just exist, we manage ourselves. We choose what pictures to post, what opinions to share, what playlists to like. We create avatars, we create bios, we create our own websites, we put certain stuff on there. You may be creating a professional portfolio, I hope you are, so that your potential employers or internship providers can see who you are, what you've done, the skills that you have. But all that's curated. Okay, so we're engaging in this kind of strategic identity performance. It isn't necessarily authentic, it's selective, and it raises some really important questions. Is the portfolio, for example, version of you, the real you? Does being seen change who you are? Or are you performing or just participating? So our digital identity is fluid. It allows for self-expression, but it also allows for self-surveillance. Lewis Mumford talked about this again in the 30s, and he argued that the mirror is one of the most important inventions of all time, because for the very first time, people could see themselves as other people saw them. And that's life-changing. And you may not think it's a big deal, right? But mirrors are magical. And then we fast forward to photography as a form of mirror, and then we fast forward in terms of social media as a form of mirroring, and it makes us more self-surveilling. And so let's say it's the wintertime, and I'm walking on the sidewalk out here, and I slip on some ice and I fall. My first thought when I fall it might be, am I hurt? But it also might be, who saw me fall? Because now that inner eye and the outer eye flipped. Instead of looking inside and asking, who am I, how am I feeling, am I okay, whatever, that outer eye is now the most important, and my first thought might be, who saw me fall? Okay, self-surveillance. One of the most important goals of this course is to not just critique technology, but to help me become more self-aware of how I use it and how you use it. think about your phone habits, your feed, your notification, your digital routines. These aren't neutral. They shape your time, your thoughts, and even your emotional states. So becoming aware of this is not just about deleting your apps. That's not the answer to all of this. It's about asking a really important question. How does the technology that I use shape me? And maybe most importantly, how can I shape it back? All right, so that's the second part of our lecture here. We're going to pause now, and I'll ask you to go in and take knowledge check number 2. It's the self and technology 2. And then that's it for this, and then we'll see you in class on Monday. Hope you guys have a great weekend.